How do I start this thing?
Have you plugged the bloody USB in?
Yeah, it's in.
Nah, man, that's the wrong port. Oh, wait, it's flashing now.
Is it it's recording.
Well, let's start this thing, fool.
Hello, everyone. I'm Amelia.
Hi, I'm Sam. Welcome to Ask the Duo podcast, a podcast where we get deep into those late-night, unfiltered conversations.
We'll be discussing all things lifestyle, relationship, mindset, and more.
All right, let's get to it.
Hello. Welcome back.
Welcome back to today. Today's been a great day, and you know why? Because I finally pulled the trigger in buying a brand new iPhone 14 Pro, motherfuckers!
Those cameras look amazing. The specs.
Yeah, it's a big upgrade from my current phone. So
not really.
It is actually. It's a huge update from 11 Pro. I never updated I didn't buy a 12 or a 13. I kind of like waited it out, but yeah, I compared, and it's a pretty massive difference between an 11 and a 14.
You've converted. You've joined the dark side.
Well, I've invested too much money in these fucking Apple products, so
that's how they get you.
Well, yeah. Well, I had no choice with my previous job, so you know it was Apple or nothing. So
Android forever.
Yeah, I do miss Android. I miss doing things with it and having that freedom of whatever.
But yeah, speaking of love and changing over and switching things, we were going to talk about friend zones.
Friend zone.
You friend zoned the androids. Fell in love with apples.
Yeah, well, yeah, maybe.
Anyway, so we'll jump right into it. I just wanted to ask you, have you ever been friend zoned before?
Yeah, I have actually. And it's a shit feeling.
Yeah, of course. I think once you've, passed your 20s, you would have been friend zoned at least once or twice for most people.
Oh, yeah.
Whether they've known it or not.
Yeah.
So what was your experience like being friend zoned?
What was my experience like?
Yeah, or like talk us through some of your experiences.
Yeah, so just recalling from my experiences, the moments when you're interested in someone, you pursue that interest, you do things to gain attention of that person, but that person either misleads you by feeding whatever it is to you, to make you feel like they are somewhat interested, but then at the end of it, the road just is a long desert road, and there's no exit. There's no goal.
Sounds like a very sad, heartbreaking song lyrics.
It is actually. It's actually sad because I see a lot of people, whether it's friends or acquaintances and stuff like that, and when you hear their stories, I can relate because I understand.
So do you have an example that you can share for us?
Yeah, there's one time I was chasing this chick. She's a Caucasian.
The chick with the beanie yesterday? So, yesterday we went to eat ice cream, and then he pointed out this chick where he was like, oh, the girl with the hat looks like one of my exes. And I looked over, and I was looking at a completely different girl, and he was looking at a different girl. And the chick I was looking at had a beanie, and yeah, she was someone that I would not think that he would go for, but I just went along. I was like, oh, okay, cool. And then I kind of took a second glance. I was like, oh, wait, there's another girl with an actual hat on, like a wide brim hat. And I was like, oh, wait, that one, the Asian girl. And then he's like, yeah. I was like, who do you think I was talking about? I was like, the girl with the beanie. And then he's like, fuck no.
Bruh, if you guys could see my face, the expression I'm giving is unexplainable by words. But no, if you guys would have seen our recent IG video post, with this particular girl that I was pointing out to you was basically the girl that I dumped via email.
By the way, it was 80% voted you were cruel.
Yeah, I know. Look, I dumped this chick through an email, and look, there was things going on at the time, and like looking back, yes, I do feel bad. Do I, regret it? Yeah, of course. But anyway, long story short, I dumped this girl through email, and this girl that we saw yesterday looked just like her. And I was trying to tell you, hey, that's the girl. And shout out to the girl that was there. You actually look pretty good, so good on ya. You're doing well.
Anyways, derailing.
Yes.
So what happened with your friend zone?
Oh, yeah.
Moment?
So yeah, I guess you just give her so much attention. You try to talk to her. You try to get to know her. You put a lot of effort into it. And I think it's just being immature in the fact that my experiences didn't tell me what were the toll signs of, okay, I'm not really going anywhere with it.
So what were the things that you did to show or express that you liked her?
Favoring her, talking about her, doing more for her.
But was it around people or just around
combination.
with her only?
Combination. And even with around her, it was more like showing that I cared. Doing more, you know what I mean? Like,
but how do you do that? Because even for you now as like a couple, sometimes it's hard for me to tell that you're showing that you cared, and because everyone's love language is quite different. So how did you show that you cared?
Look, I was a very, very different person back in those days.
Yeah, so like examples of what you did to show that you cared.
Well, like I said, I bent my back over and I did anything and everything that I could. So if she needed help, I'll be there. Buy her shit. I would do things, like that was the stuff that I always used to do. I would always give and care. And I didn't know that there were signs of her, or what she was doing, her replies, her body language, that sort of stuff was giving me that feeling of, okay, she's not interested. But I didn't see that. I kept pursuing. So that's an example of being friend zoned when let's just say from memory, I was pursuing her for roughly about a month and nothing really went from that point.
But how did you figure out that she friend zoned you? Like, did she tell you, or did someone tell you, or you just realized? Like, how did you figure out that you were friend zoned?
She wasn't reciprocating the attention that I was giving her.
But like, some people might do that. They might just be worried that they're trying to show too much and they don't want to show it to you that they like you until they're sure. But did she show other signs of liking other people apart from you or something?
Yeah, combination. She was talking to other people, other guys, and I found that out by other people.
But talking as in like just conversation or hang out with them?
Like hanging out, man. I don't mean like bullshit. Oh, hi, how you going? I mean like they were like one-on-one hanging out kind of thing. And it got to a point where I told this person that I liked them, and basically she said, look, I don't feel the same way. And that was like a month or two of me trying to pursue. Well,
at least you talked to her.
Well, at the end of it, yeah, of course. You know what I mean? You have to say something. So did you continue to still hang out with her after, or you were just like, nah? Fuck that, bruh. I was on a hunt. So no, after that experience, it's like, nah, that's it. So what were the things that you learned from that, like the cues of potentially, apart from not reciprocating, were there some body language or like cues that gave you new things that you've learned about knowing if you're in a friend zone or not? Yeah, look, body language is a hard one to some extent. Like at this moment in this situation, I was a bit of a frigid. I didn't like touch her. I didn't try to like do that stuff like hug her and stuff like that. So there was always like an arm's length like gap when we were together. You want to be close to her. You want to be close to her. And sometimes body language in terms of touching is a sign that she's accepting you to be that close. But when you were close to her, did she move away or did she actually stay? Yeah, you can tell like you would come close to her, like you kind of like want to put your arm around her, like a seedy arm, like trying to, and then she'll kind of like move away or something like that. You like brush your hands when you're walking and like seeing if she wants to hold your hand. You do little fucking star fingers on her fingers and then she's like... spirit fingers. And then she's like, ooh, and then moves off and you're like, oh, okay. Yeah. No, that all makes sense. But I think it's good that you actually talk to her because some people may be even afraid to express how they feel.
And I think unless you express it, you won't ever really know the answer unless they actually did like you as well. Which in the end, you still need to talk about
100%. And look, I definitely was scared to initiate the conversation.
Yeah, I think it's scary for everyone. But
yeah. But I mean, at the end of it, I just opened my mouth.
Yeah. But when you said that you didn't really hang out with her anymore after that, was she in the same friend circle or like where you had to see her?
No.
Oh, that's good then.
No. It's see you later, alligator.
Don't forget your toilet paper. Well, I
had something, right?
Yeah, well, I think I'm more the girl that friend-zoned people, but the thing was, I was really naive back then where I didn't know that the guy or the guys that liked me did actually like me. So I am a person who hangs out with a lot of guys just in general, but I'm not the person who's hanging out with guys to be like flirty or whatever. I just genuinely enjoy hanging out with guys. It's just fun. But I think just a girl hanging out with guys, naturally the guys would end up liking the girl because of, I'm different. I'm not another guy, part of the guy friend circle. And I think that's kind of what happened. Like a few different people around the similar friend circle end up liking me, but I didn't know that. Like I just thought that they're just being very kind and caring or showing attention, but just as a friend kind of thing. So I unintentionally friend zoned them.
And then how did you realize that you friend zoned them?
I think it's once. So how I think it kind of like turned into friend zone is that they did like me and they were kind of like you. They didn't initiate in terms of touching or like feeling or trying to hug you and all that kind of stuff. But as it kind of progresses, you realize they like you when they actually start touching you. And then that's when I'm like, oh shit, I didn't realize that there was this thing happening. And then...
So was it always touching that was your...
That was my cue that they like me.
What kind of touching though?
Like either they put their hand around your back, like, when you're talking to someone and you put your hand in their like back just there, or they try to like hug you or put their hands around your shoulder and stuff. And that's my definite cue, like, oh shit, they like me. But I used to be really dumb where I would... Like, this sounds really bad and I really regret it. I've told you before, but sometimes I kind of ignore it, which means I'm kind of leading them on because I've just ignored the fact that they like me. And it wasn't because I ignored it for any benefits where they can still treat me nice or whatever. I think it was more so the case that I didn't know what to do in that case. So I'm like, and I was too scared to confront them and talk about it. Whereas like, oh, I've noticed you've been doing this, this and this. And I may be taking it the wrong way, but I don't feel the same. Like, I could have just said that, but I think I was, 1, too scared, and 2, didn't know what to do.
Interesting.
Yeah, so happened a few times, but then over the years, then I realized that it like happened a few times and I can't stay quiet about it because it's not good for the other person to lead them on. So I definitely started to voice it, and I realized like, when you voice about it, you talk about it, it's better than you keeping it in. It's the same with sharing any of your feelings. It's good to just hash it out and talk it through. And it doesn't have to be scary or intimidating. Like it definitely is scary. But once you talk about it, I think both sides will feel better in the end. Like the other guy may be disappointed that he got rejected, but now he knows his answer.
Yeah. Okay. So your perspective of, I guess, you friend zoning a guy is when they are more physical with you.
Yeah.
And that's your...
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I hang out with a lot of guys and I've never, like we've said this many times, back then I've never looked for a relationship and I didn't really see anything in a relationship, so I didn't want a boyfriend or anything. I was just there, like with anyone that I hang out with is just for friends.
Yeah.
So once it got to that point, but I'm not the point where like, once I friend zone them and think that, oh, they like me, but I don't want anything to do with them, I don't push them away. I'm like, dude, honestly, I know people hate this where they're like, oh, we can still be friends. But genuinely, I believe that. Like, you're still young, and you guys are still friends. Like, you started off as friends. Apart from not being able to progress into a relationship, like, why can't you stay at friends? Like, I get that they will need their time to kind of settle and think this through, and think of their emotions and being sad and all that. But after that, I'm like, what I say is, like, I'm still happy to be your friend, and I'm still here if you need me. You get what I mean?
Yeah, and look, it comes down to maturity level too, because I find that in my earlier days, I would write them off. But in my later days, I would still keep them as like a friend or an acquaintance. I'd still keep them as a contact.
Yeah.
So I think it just depends on maturity level as to how you see things and that sort of stuff. So
yeah,
that's a difference. But on the flip side of that experience, have you ever been rejected rather than rejecting?
Yeah, I've been rejected. I don't know if it classifies as a friend zone. I think there was something there, but then eventually that person may have just decided that it didn't really end up how they thought it would, or it didn't really want to progress into a relationship. So I've been rejected in that way.
So how did that pan out? Like, how did you know that person didn't want to go ahead anymore?
I actually asked them. I was like, oh,
so you approached them and asked them.
I think I'm a person that, I do get scared of things, but in the end, I will still talk about it, or I will still ask, because I think my curiosity and my want for closure or answers it overpowers me being like, oh no, I'll just leave it. Like, I want to know what's happened, or I want an explanation. Not because like I'm like, oh, I need to know what happened, but it's just like giving them a chance to explain why something has happened, like in any situation, not just in this friend zone thing. So we were hanging out, we like did kind of see each other for a little bit, and I think I went overseas or holidays or something, and then I came back and I was like, oh, let's hang out or something like that. And then he was like, no, don't really want to. And I was like, oh, what happened? Like, just trying to ask. Like, it was over a few different conversations. At first he was like, no, I don't really want to. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, I was a bit shocked, but kind of just sat on it a little bit, gave him some time, then called him again and wanted to ask what's happened. And there was no explanation out of it. I didn't get anything, but that was my answer. It was just either I wanted this relationship more than that person did, or I completely read the whole situation wrong, which is kind of hard to believe because we did hang out a lot. And yeah, that was pretty much it. But same things, it's just reading those cues. And I think the most important thing is definitely just talking about it. Just ask them. And if they don't want to give you the answer, you just got to respect that and then move on.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's what it is at the end of the day, right? Is I think communicating it is probably like the number one thing. But I understand why people are roadblocked at some point, or don't know which point they need to really approach it. Because it is very difficult, especially when you like someone and you want to approach that someone, but then at the same time you don't know if they are feeling the same way, or you don't know if you've misinterpreted the whole thing.
And I think as you kind of mature over time too, when you're young, it's really just young love, and it may not actually be something you want in the end. Like, it might be that quick moment, few months of this love that you're feeling or lust that you're feeling, but in the end, if they decide to not be with you, that's just a sign that it shouldn't have meant to be anyway.
Yeah, of course.
But another thing is, whether you have been rejected or friend-zoned or vice versa, like you friend-zoned someone, like I was saying, I would still be their friend. So if you were rejected, I try not to make things awkward. Like, yeah, there was something between you two, or you had something for that person and you decided to keep it as friends. Like, don't make it awkward. Like, next time you see them, don't, like, think that, oh, now it's, like, awkward because he just told me that he liked me, but I don't like him. Like, I see that happen a lot. And to me, I just don't feel that that's necessary. Like, just carry on, move on, and just, if you guys were friends already, like, just stay as friends. You don't have to, like, completely dash off the other way if you saw them at a party or whatever it is. Just simply say hi and, you know, just do whatever you want to do at that party, hang out with friends, chat, whatever. Like, just don't make it awkward.
Yeah, it's all situational based because I remember another situation where I was not really friend zoned, but I semi got into a relationship, but at the end of the relationship, it was like, it wasn't...
So it was like you just seeing each other, but nothing official.
Well, it was official, but it was more that I realized towards the end that she wasn't feeling the same way and she was just using me.
What? How did that happen?
So, like I said, the same thing where you're very committed for this person. You like them a lot, so you just do things for them. And I end up basically buying food for this particular person and always having to do that regularly because...
Regularly, like on a daily or...
Almost on a daily where that person just wanted it. And for whatever reason it was from her point of view, it was like, oh, just buy me food and bring it over. And I'd do that. And then it was just like, I go to her house and it's like nothing. There's no conversation. There's nothing on a deeper level. It was just surface. It was just
nothing
like, oh,
that felt like a relationship.
No, it's just like, oh, hey, here's your food. And she's like...
So you were just an Uber Eats.
Pretty much, yeah. Pretty much. I was her taxi.
What?
Because I could
so
drive.
Sad.
Yeah. And she knows who the fuck she is. But look, it is a long time ago. I think she realized what she was doing later in the years as she matured. I think she probably didn't feel the same way as I did.
Yeah.
Or, I don't know, just didn't reciprocate. But basically at the end of it was I was being used to provide a service.
Yeah. I think when you're young, you do stupid things. So like now when I think or hear stories of people who have done maybe something like that, especially at a younger year, I wouldn't say I'm more forgiving, but I do understand because I feel like I did a lot of stupid shit too, like that, you know, the friend zoning, but I didn't speak up about it. I didn't do anything about it and kind of just let it be. So they continue to show affection when I know that I should be like, oh, you know, I don't feel the same way. So it's just doing stupid things and you're young. So I can see why that could have happened, but obviously, like, it's not a good thing to do.
Oh yeah, of course. It's not a good feeling at that moment. But at the same time, I can understand why the younger me was like, yeah, I don't want to be friends with you or talk to you ever again.
Especially you've done so much for someone and to realize that they're only using you. Like, I don't blame you for not wanting to hang out with her.
Yeah. If it was me now, I would have just laughed at it and just been like, whatever. Cool.
Yeah, move on. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's another thing. Like, if you have been in a position where you've been friend zoned, you shouldn't, like, yeah, you will feel disappointed and sad because obviously you really like this person and your feelings are valid, but don't think too much into it where you, like, kind of like ego. I don't want to say like you have like a massive ego where you wanted to have a girlfriend and show it in that kind of manner, but ego in terms of disappointed that you couldn't get a girl or you couldn't get a guy. Like, don't think of it like that. It was just a feeling, a chance that you showed your feeling and then it didn't work out the way that you thought. It's just the same as any other situation where you had hopes and dreams and it didn't work out. And it's fine, like, accept that it didn't work out, and then now you can either see if you have potential to move forward as friends, or you just, like you do, you move away from that person and move on. Yeah,
and look, to be honest and upfront is a good way to really start any situation when it comes to like a fresh interest, if you want to call it that, right? So it's pursuing someone that you obviously like, genuinely, that is, not for, you know, friends with benefits or anything like that. And obviously, after a few dates or whatever it is, it's good to ask certain questions where that person can reciprocate or provide an answer which gives you an indication as to which direction or route he is willing to go.
Yeah.
And that ultimately gives you the answer as to, okay, am I willing to push this further, or is this a stop zone?
Yeah. But I have another question, because you see a lot of people who, like, more so like guys who have been friend zoned, right? But there are some guys who continue to persist even though they know the girl has no intentions of dating them at all. But in the end, like maybe a few months later or even a few years later, they actually end up dating. So where's that point where you should keep trying, like from your point of view?
I have seen someone who has been friend zoned 2 or 3 or 4 years, and that particular female told him that he was not good enough. Whether I don't know what it is specifically, but whether it was physical, whether it was money, whatever it was, right? She told him up front that, hey, look, you're not good enough for me.
That's so mean.
Now, not saying that was what she actually said, but in the gist of the situation,
that's how she felt.
That's how she felt.
Yeah.
Which is fine. She's entitled to that, right? But this guy basically was dead set. He was willing to wait. He stuck it out. He stuck it out. And now he's fucking married with kids with her.
Yeah, but what do you think would give someone that the encouragement to keep going and keep pursuing?
Look, there's no, like, from my point of view, right? There's no clear definition as to whether that person is worth the wait or not. Ultimately, that's up to that particular person to make that call.
And their feelings, like how strong of
Correct.
a feeling that they have.
Because I think things happen for a reason, okay? So you've got to really make that call depending on your current situation, where you're at in your life. What do you really want from a relationship? Do you understand yourself as an individual first? Because if you don't understand yourself first, then how are you going to understand you in a relationship?
No, that's a good point. I think even though you got friend zone and you still want to continue to pursue, don't forget to keep working on yourself too, and just keep growing. And over time, as you grow and change and evolve, that person may eventually see something in you. And I think that persistency also does help, as long as it's not like a seedy, creepy, like, thing where you're like trying to be creepy or something. But the persistency of always trying to be there for that person or trying to help them and still working on yourself can actually show through and make the other person end up liking your character.
Yeah, and keep in mind, don't forget, you have to look after yourself too. So you need to basically evaluate what you want in your life too. Because look, a lot of from what I've seen and experiences from my friends and stuff like that, situations where they're about to get friend zoned, or they're in this situation where they're like, fuck, I like this girl, but this girl's not doing anything, or I'm kind of like in a dry zone. It's kind of like, well, you need to look after yourself. Is it really worth waiting this time? Like, there's plenty of other fishes in the sea that you could potentially look at too.
Yeah, and if that girl is worth waiting for, that's cool. Like, it's good that you can keep persisting and trying for someone, and it motivates you to become a better person too.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing is the thing that I find with most guys nowadays is guys know what they physically want, but in terms of the females, like characteristics and stuff like that, I wouldn't say they have a clear clarity of what they want.
But I think that also just comes down with experience and just talking to people, knowing people. Over time, you learn what you want.
Yes, if you're 100%. If you're young, and when I mean young, I mean low 20s. Young 20s where you've just came out of high school, you're fresh in uni or whatever it is, okay, I get that. But if you're mid 20s to late 30s or early 30s, you've gone through a decent experience of working, exposure to people, talking to people, making friends, that sort of stuff, you should have an understanding of what you want in a character.
Yeah.
So
I learned through other things.
Yeah.
Well, one last final question, because I know that in a typical like scene of friend zone, you would think it's a girl who friend zones a guy. Do you know of stories, or have you ever friend zoned a girl?
Yeah, I friend zone heaps of girls. And look, it's a combination of me not knowing too.
Yeah.
And me sort of purposely doing it.
So, like, I'm talking about like your actual friend who actually liked you and you friend zoned them. Like, how did you go about that?
Okay, so if you're in a relationship, does that count?
What do you mean?
Like, if your friend likes you but you're in a relationship, is
that's
different?
still friend. I guess that's friend zone.
Okay, so I had
But that's just easier. You can just be like, I've got a girlfriend.
Well, okay, so I had this girl that I knew. I worked with her. You know about this. Anyway, she liked me. I didn't know that. And she basically, I think at the time, so with work, I don't share my personal information. Like, I don't tell them like
Personal
what I do.
life things.
Yeah, my personal life and stuff like that. So I would assume she didn't know that I had a girlfriend at the time. But anyway, she was pursuing very strongly on me, and
But how?
I didn't know. So
What's
she invited me to her birthday, and I didn't know any of her friends.
You were like, fuck no.
I was like, fuck that shit. I don't know anyone. Why the fuck would I go?
I can actually imagine you saying that, and she would have been so heartbroken.
I legit said, fuck that shit, bro. And she was just like, well, how about if I invite this guy and this guy, would you come? And I was like, okay. And those guys were like, nah, fuck that. So I was like, fuck that shit, I ain't going, bro. But anyway, so there was numerous times where she would try and physically come and see me. So
What, when she's not working or something?
Yeah. And I would be like, why? Oh, can I come over to your house now? I've got something. Yeah.
So keen.
Yeah. And those situations would happen. And look, at the time I was like, well, okay, I think this person actually is keen. But I kept denying. I kept, look, I'm busy. I have this and I have this and that, and I'm in a relationship and stuff like that. But whatever reason it was, she, I don't know, kept pursuing.
Even after you said you were in a relationship?
Yeah, and then that's when that person was like, oh, look, why are all the guys that I'm keen for in relationships
Already taken?
And that was one thing that she said to me, and I was like, fuck, that's
so
rough.
like, when I hear that from either friends or people who are trying to get into relationships, that's actually really sad.
Yeah, and I was like, fuck, that's rough. And I said to her, I'm like, look, maybe it's not the right time. There's plenty of other fishes in the sea, man. You just got to take your time. Maybe it's not your moment right now.
I think the best thing is just focus on yourself. Keep growing and better yourself. And over time, as you do that, because when you're trying to better yourself, either you take courses to learn, or you do a hobby or whatever it is. And from these things, you might meet people who share a similar interest or value or whatever it is. And that's when things happen, because you're working on yourself and you meet people through things that you enjoy doing.
Yeah, of course. And yeah, like that moment happened, and I felt bad for her, to be honest. Like,
yeah, I would too.
I mean, I've been in a similar, somewhat situation, so I know what it feels like to be friend zoned.
But were you clear about it? Like, well, I guess you did when you said that you're in a relationship. But
well, yeah, and I denied all the things. Like, there was a few times where she would call me and be like, "Hey, can I come over?" Because she knows that I'm not into. Well, I am into cars, but I have a mechanical background, so I know how to fix cars. And she had car problems, and she was like, "Oh, hey, can I come over?"
Like, just trying to make little excuses to come see you.
Yeah, which is a pretty good idea. Like, it's a smart way to come and approach it. But yeah, like, I was just straight up like, well, no, like, I'm busy. I have stuff on, or yeah.
Nice. You've got a good array of stories of being friend zoned and friend zoning people. But yeah, I think it's a good conversation. And remember, if you are being friend zoned, or you're chasing someone, or you're worried about being friend zoned, don't think too much into it. Like if you're gonna be turned down or rejected, it's gonna happen either way. And the best thing is just to be open and talk about it, and just see where things go and where things lead you.
Yeah, 100%. And I think if you're pursuing someone and it's been months and that person's not reciprocating it, that's your answer, man. Like, you're best to be open upfront, get it in, talk about it, get denied, or have it in front of your face. Then at least you can go, okay, that's it, or I'm going to take another direction. Because it's really not worth spending so much time working on this one particular person when there's...
But it's like blindly trying to. So even if you talk about it and they said no, you can, like you said, take a different angle. If you want to continue to pursue, try something different. Or, you know, you just can't blindly try and keep pursuing without knowing or having check-ins of how this other person feels.
Yeah, every situation is different, right? But you really got to look after yourself at the end of the day, you know what I mean? And if that person's not willing to play a game with you, then dude...
That's your answer.
Yeah, it's your answer. Keep going, man. There's plenty of other moot out in the sea.
No, it's not about the moot.
It's always about the...
It's not about the moot. Don't listen to this guy. All right, anyways, we're closing here.
Well... Let us know in the comments, please. Like, have you guys been friend zone, or have you stuck around that friend zone and then somehow been successful? Let us know, because I really like those kind of stories, because being persistent sometimes can really go far.
All right. Thank you for listening, and bye.
See you later.
Closing out. Bye.
Thank you so much if you have reached to the end. We really appreciate you for tuning in. And if you'd like what you hear, please share it with your friends or family, and subscribe to our podcast on whatever platform you are listening to.
Make sure you share any topics you'd like us to cover or questions you might have to our Instagram.
Slide it into our DMs.
Bigger. You can also stay in the loop of all the behind the scenes and the release of our new episodes there too. Our Instagram is Ask the Duo Podcast. That's AskTheDuoPodcast. Man, feels like I'm in a spelling bee competition right now. Alright, that's it for now, and we'll see you back here for our next episode. Bye!
See ya!